Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today I'm going to be doing my first NBA mock draft, post-draft lottery, and first NBA draft mock draft I've done. I've waited to do these until after the draft lottery. Some people start to do them during March Madness, after March Madness, maybe before, but I don't like to do it until we know where the draft picks are at least going to be with the draft lottery ending last night. The Dallas Mavericks got the first overall pick. We all know who's going to go number one. So let's go over that real quickly. And that's going to be Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the number one overall pick with the Dallas Mavericks. Who got the second overall pick? That was the San Antonio Spurs. So this is where I have things getting more difficult. Dylan Harper, you look at as the second best player in this draft, but just as good, and another guy who has a lot of talent and a lot of potential is Ace Bailey. Now, something I look at with the Spurs team is they are guard-filled. I mean, you've got Steph Castle, you've got De'Aaron Fox. They've got a lot of guards on this team. Devin Vassell. Look, unless this Spurs team makes a huge trade where they're trading maybe Castle or Vassell, this Spurs team has a lot of guards. Chris Paul, they might look to re-sign him. I don't know what will happen with Chris Paul this offseason. I know he brings a great vibe to the team. This is a good guard-filled team. It would make more sense if this team drafted Ace Bailey, a small forward who'd come in. A great player. I mean, averaged 19 and 7 at Rutgers this year. A solid three-point shooter as well. I think he'd be just as good as a fit for this Spurs team as Dylan Harper would be. Speaking of Dylan Harper, at 3, the Philadelphia 76ers, I have Dylan Harper going number 3 overall. And then number 4, I have the Charlotte Hornets drafting VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. And then at number 5, I have the Jazz selecting Jeremiah Fears from Oklahoma. At 6, I have the Wizards drafting a Texas player, Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson has a lot of potential as a guy who's, his stock has gone up as we've gone from, March Madness from now. And, obviously Texas didn't make the tournament, but he played really good in the SEC tournament for the Longhorns, and then played really good in the final game. In the first 4 game, the Texas Longhorns did lose, but he did play really good. And so he's a guy that I think shows a lot of potential in this league, and could pair well next to Jordan Poole you could play him at point. He could play at point guard, but with Jordan Poole, he would be the shooting guard in the lineup. I think those two would mix well with each other. I really do. At 7, I have the Pelicans taking from Duke Monolok. This is a guy who has a lot of potential as a big man. Some have compared him to Mark Williams. But obviously he's not a guy who's gonna be great with shooting the basketball. But he's a great shot blocker, great rebounder, great at getting to the rim. Just a traditional old-fashioned big, and it would be nice to pair him next to Zion. It would be hard to deal with Zion and Monolok in the paint offensively and defensively for other teams. And these are two guys who were former Duke players. I think the Duke connection between Monolok and Zion definitely makes the Pelicans probably want to draft him even more. The Pelicans need a big man really bad. We saw them lose Valanciunas a couple years ago, and so you lose Valanciunas. He signed with the Wizards last offseason, and then the Wizards obviously traded to the Kings. So Valanciunas is gone. Misi, I think, is a guy who's a really good center, has potential, but I don't see him being as, a center that can be for them, that is a guy that is starting. Or is a real good player. I think Misi is a guy who can be a starter on a bad team potentially, and be a really good backup center for a good team. And I think if you're the Pelicans, you want to be a good team again after this really bad season that they just had. And, adding a big man next to Zion could really help with that. And Monolok can be a great guy to add in. All right, next we've got another big man taken. This is another team that really could draft a big guy, and that is the Nets. Derek Queen from Maryland had a great tournament. And had a great season at Maryland as well. He's a guy who's a little bit better with jump shots than Mullock is, but still not great. So another guy that's kind of more of a traditional big. I think he'd be a great addition for this Brooklyn Nets team. I don't know what happens with Nick Claxton. He only has 1 year left on his deal. I think he's a guy that is going to be involved in trade rumors if the Nets, potentially go after, big names this offseason. And there's reports that they're really going after it. And if they are, I think that Claxton is a guy that's going to be involved in deals. And so, if you're going to replace Claxton at the 5, Derek Queen could be a really good way to do that. Next, we got the Raptors drafting Noah Isungwe from Germany. This is I think this would be a great pick for this Raptors team to add some size. He's 6'10", and great playmaker. That would be a great addition for this Raptors team. I think he really fits well. I think there were a lot of people thinking that maybe he would, be in the early teens, but now that the Raptors are at 9, you could see him fitting well into this Raptors team. At 10, I've got the Houston Rockets drafting Kon Knueppel. I think that the Rockets can definitely trade this pick. As a Rockets fan, I would hope the Rockets trade this pick, but if Kon Knueppel is down at 10, if he's available at 10, you need to add him in. The Rockets' biggest need, you saw it in the first round in the playoffs as a Rockets fan. It was 3-point shooting. It was free throw shooting. Kon Knueppel, and Ime Udoka in his press conference at the end of the season said, he was asked, like, what do y'all need? What are y'all missing? Or something like that. And he said a 50% 3-point shooter and a 90% free throw shooter. It's hard to find, but I'll tell you what Kon Knueppel is. He's almost 41% 3-point shooter and a 91% free throw shooter. So it's not like I don't think Kon would come into Houston and start, but if he comes off the bench and he provides the 3-point shooting this Rockets team desperately needs at such a young age, some people say he would be the star of this Duke team if it wasn't for Cooper Flagg, and maybe we'd be talking about him being a top 3, top 4 pick if it wasn't for Cooper. I think the Rockets need to see this potential in this kid right here, but also not only that, but the team need that he provides with free throw shooting and 3-point shooting. And if I'd like to see, Kevin Durant in Houston or all these other stars that they're talking about in potential trades and seeing that pick get traded if you're throwing out names like Giannis and KD and all these other guys. But Kon Knueppel is a guy that this Rockets team needs. The Rockets have a bunch of other picks and young players to the point where they can get a deal done for Giannis or KD they can get a KD or Giannis deal done and still keep the 10th overall pick. It's not like it's not like a team like the Suns or Bucks or some of these other teams that would be talking with the Rockets about a star player would say we need that 10th overall pick. That's something we desperately need, especially with the Rockets have all these other assets. So honestly, if Kon's gonna fall to 10, there are some mocks right now that have him falling. If he does, the Rockets. That's a guy that really fits their team well with what they need right now. All right, at 11, I've got the Portland Trailblazers drafting Kasparas Jakukonis from Illinois, but played college basketball at Illinois, but from Lithuania. A great playmaker. This guy is 6'6", amazing playmaker. One of the best passers in college basketball. I think it'd be a no-brainer to not draft this kid. I know, look, if he's at 11, Portland could hesitate because all the guard talent they have. I think Anthony Simons is gone this offseason. I think most likely they trade Anthony Simons. He's an expiring deal. You've got Scoot Henderson. I think the future is bright with Scoot Henderson. But, you want to have two very promising guards. And look, like I said, Jackie Konis is 6'6". It'd be very easily to put him at the 1, at the 2 or the 3. The thing I look at is Luka, and what with him, Luka came into the league as a point guard. He is right now still a point guard, but if you want with Luka, you can put him at the 2 or the 3 because of his size. He has that's why I'm comparing him. Playmaking is unbelievable, just like we see with Luka. And shooting is really good too. But the size, you can have Scoot Henderson at the 1 and him at the 2. Like in Dallas with Luka, you saw Kyrie at the 1 and Luka at the 2. If you wanted to have 2 guards, you could put Luka at the 3 at his size. It's not going to happen most likely, but you can. And so that's why, it's not like he has to be a point guard. Scoot Henderson, if he's going to play, he's going to be the point guard because, of his size. But Jack Udonis, he doesn't have to be a point guard with his 6'6" size. So yeah, but I think Portland would be dumb to not draft, Jack Udonis. All right, let's get into the next pick. At 12, I've got the Bulls selecting Asa Newell from Georgia. This would be. I think this is a no-brainer pick if you're the Chicago Bulls. If he's available at number 12 with the size 6'10", 6'11". The Bulls. I mean, keep in mind at the end of the season, they didn't have Patrick Williams starting. They had Patrick Williams coming off the bench. So, they had Kevin Huerter starting at the 4. Kevin Huerter is a great player. I really like Kevin Huerter. But Kevin Huerter is really a shooting guard, most likely a small forward. You look at Kevin Huerter and say, all right, he's going to be at the 3, might be at the 2. You don't look at Kevin Huerter and say, oh, yeah, this is a guy that's starting at the 4. Because they had Vucevic. Their starting lineup at the end of the season was Kobe White, Josh Giddey. They had Kevin Huerter, Nikola Vucevic, and there was, I can't remember the 5th starter that they had with those 4 guys in that lineup. It was Buzeles. So I guess Buzeles was at the 4 and Kevin Huerter was at the 3. But they were still really playing really small at times, and that's something that I think the Bulls can kind of end by drafting Newell and getting a 6'10" guy to be that power forward, and Buzeles can be the small forward. With Buzeles' shooting ability, you can see him at the 3, and that actually wouldn't be that bad. Seeing him at he's just in his rookie season shot 36% from 3. You can have him at the small forward and have White and Giddey at the 1 and 2. So that's assuming that Newell would come in and start right away. I don't know if that's something that would happen, but that would be, I think, a no-brainer for the Bulls to draft the Georgia power forward. All right, let's go over the last 2 picks real quick. I've got the Atlanta Hawks drafting Cullen Murray Boyles. Would be a really solid pick for the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know how much he would play, but it would be an entertaining pick. Getting the South Carolina forward. So I think that for Atlanta, I don't know if whoever they draft is going to play a lot, but I think that would probably be the best available guy right there. And then the last guy I'm going to go over is with the San Antonio Spurs at the 14th overall pick. I'm only doing the lottery picks. Is Jace Richardson from Michigan State. I would love this pick for the San Antonio Spurs. Great shooter, good defensively. That is something that would be great for this San Antonio Spurs team. We'll see if these picks actually are made by San Antonio, because I think you couldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to hear rumors about Giannis Antetokounmpo being involved in a potential Spurs deal where these picks would go to Milwaukee. But I really think that you could see if the Spurs keep this pick, both picks, that Jace Richardson would be a great fit for the San Antonio Spurs off the bench with his shooting ability, and his defensive ability. And so if you put him on the floor with Victor Wembanyama is going to see more double teams as he continues to get better. And there will be open shooters that are around Victor Wembanyama. So if he had a shooter like Jace Richardson, who shot the ball really well in college this year with Michigan State, And then not only that, but Richardson's really good defensively. He could turn into a really good player for the San Antonio Spurs team, I believe. But let me know your thoughts on this, NBA mock draft in the comment section, and peace out.